Hello, Miss Lyssa.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Roger. With me, Irene is a representative of translation volunteers. Today, we are happy to have the most influential Agile coach in the world, Miss Lyssa Adkins.
That feels good. Thank you for saying that.
And Lyssa spreads the Agile community around the world with her amazing Agile empowering influence. Lyssa is currently working on improving the performance of senior leadership teams through insights and organizational systems guidance to help senior management succeed in agile transformations.
And in 2010, Ms. Adkins co-founded the Agile Coaching Institute, which has developed over 10,000 people in the knowledge and skills needed for Agile coaching. She has served the Scrum Alliance as an application reviewer for the Certified Enterprise Coach, which is CEC designation.
Ms. Adkins, thank you for taking the time to accept our invitation today. As you know, we have assembled a group of passionate volunteers to translate your masterpiece, Coaching Agile Teams, including the product managers, the Scrum Masters, project managers from IT, traditional industries, technology, and R&D, especially when the team is more of an ICF coaches. It's an honor for you to be interviewed by us. Before starting today's interview, could Lyssa say hello to potential readers and your fans in Taiwan? Also, could you tell us a little about yourself for those who just discover your work?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. Hello, everyone, whatever time it is for you. It's 9 a.m. in the morning for me, and I'm just so pleased to be here. I just noticed that someone was holding up the Coaching Agile Teams book with the cover in traditional Chinese, and it's such a moving experience for me to know that something I put in the world means something to people in a completely different place who I will probably never meet. And so I appreciate all the work the translators have done to make the Coaching Agile Teams book accessible to you all. It's just, I'm feeling a great sense of gratitude, and it's something I don't take for granted. So thank you very, very much. And so I'll say a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Irene.
Oh, no, I just want to let you know that, believe it or not, the pleasure is ours.
Well, so this is the wonderful thing about the Agile community that I want to just tell you about, because I've been involved in the worldwide Agile community for more than 12 years now. And there's something quite special about us as a worldwide community. And it's that we love to experiment and learn and share with each other. And I don't know, I imagine that exists in other communities, but I've never experienced it to the extent that it exists in the Agile community. So the fact that I'm grateful and you're grateful, it's just a nice virtuous cycle that we can keep going. And I think it's one of the things that makes us really strong as a worldwide community.
Yeah. And I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, just remind me that as a Scrum Master, I can't tell you how many times I have referred to some of the concepts in your book when I share the practice with other Scrum Masters. So it's really great. Thank you for all the practice sharing with us.
You are welcome. You are so welcome. You're welcome to all of it. So Roger asked that I tell you a little bit more about myself. I just want to let you know I'm sitting in my home in Richmond, Virginia. There's a statue of Kuan Yin behind me. I don't know what you call this deity in your area of the world. She has all kinds of names. And I've been a practitioner of Zen for about 8 years now. And I think it's one of the things that is keeping me functional in a very turbulent time. And you might relate to that in your own life, that it's been a little extra turbulent or a little extra bumpy in the last few years. So one of the things I'm focused on in the Agile world is helping us shift our mindset about Agile, that it's not just a way to get things done better or with closer customer collaboration or faster, but that it's a way to help us metabolize change. Metabolize meaning like when you eat something and your body can take the nutrients from it, like that we as Agilists, we can eat change and take the nutrients from it. We don't need to be afraid of the fact that there are changes happening all the time, most of which we can't control, because we have Agile to help us. So that's really where I'm focused in my own work, and focused in helping leadership teams and individual leaders start to look at Agile that way so they can see it as a force for good in their organizations.
That's so great. So I'm just like every participant here who is so excited to learn more about you today. And we are going to throw you a whole bunch of questions and hope you are ready for that.
We'll find out together, won't we?
Okay. So first of all, so what motivates you to write this book in 2010, and what motivates you again to narrate an audiobook in 2020? What kind of influence do you hope to make?
What motivates me is something that might sound strange. What motivates me is the pain I see around me. And in 2010, and I was writing this book in 2009 when we were in the middle of the financial systems crash that happened worldwide, and I could see how world events were already shaping our whole lives and how we work in business. I didn't quite have that in the forefront of my mind though, but it was definitely in the background because of the situation we were in while I was writing the book. And so what motivated me was this thought of, people spend so much time at work. They spend more time at work than they do with their families. And now that we have this blended work-life thing, since we're all working from home, or we've had mostly that experience the last couple of years, we're really seeing how much time we spend, quote unquote, at work, right? And so my thought was, it just needs to be less painful. In 2010, work was really, really painful for people. People were told to take initiative. They were told they were empowered, and in the next minute, someone would come in and tell them exactly what to do, or impose a deadline that they had no way of meeting unless they sacrificed time with their family. And so that pain motivated me then. And honestly, I didn't plan to write a book. In fact, I resisted writing a book for about 6 months. But then what happened was, pieces of the book kept coming to me at night, and I would wake up in the morning and just sort of jot them down. And over a 6-month period of time, I had an outline for a book, and I was not even convinced I was going to write it at that point. But it turned out that whatever came to me in those nighttime work sessions, whatever was happening in my own mind, was a pretty good outline, because the Coaching Agile Teams book is that same outline. There's probably no change from what originally came. So that's what motivated me then. And then we were just starting to get Agile going. We were just starting to bring Agile into organizations. The early adopter organizations were very excited about it. They were willing to knock down the barriers that were keeping teams from delivering. So it was a really exciting time. And so since then to 2020, as you said, Irene, I co-founded the Agile Coaching Institute, and we focused on the skills and the inner development of Scrum Masters and Agile coaches. By the way, I'll just say Agile coaches for everyone, because Scrum Masters are Agile coaches. That's my point of view, right? I might say both words interchangeably, but I mean everyone when I say it. So we focus on developing those skills and that inner development that's necessary, that sort of maturation of one as a leader, which is important in this work. And so focusing on that, I paid attention to the Coaching Agile Teams book. It was still, serving the world, but I didn't focus on it very much. And then what happened in 2019 is that I noticed that the sales of the Coaching Agile Teams book were actually still going up 10 years later. And even though I felt like I was sort of done with it, I wrote this book 10 years ago, I I paid attention and I said, so what is my greatest service? Given that this is happening, what is my greatest service? And so whether or not I'm done with the book is not done with the world. Therefore, it's my job to support what's happening in the world. And so that's why I recorded the audiobook in 2020. It's strange to record an audiobook 10 years later, but it matched what was happening in the world.
So sounds like you didn't really plan to have that type of influence, but somehow it just created that type of influence on its own. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. I think what I would say is that I had and I still hold a vision for Agile coaches as powerful transformation leaders. I hold that vision, and it's something very personal to me. I can feel it in every part of my body when I say it. And you're right, Irene, like the means to start to create that in the world, all of that just happened. But when something quote unquote just happens, that's when my husband says, honey, this is how you know you're living right.
Wow. I felt your vision, and your vision is very great. So it becomes the masterpiece from 2010. I think it is still a masterpiece of Scrum Master coaching till now. So my question is, the book Coaching Agile Team has become a must-have for every Agile coach. What does this book mean to you?
What I'm aware of is that this book is still teaching me. And what I mean by that is that when I wrote it, I was at a certain level of understanding of the things that I wrote about in the book, specifically professional coaching and facilitation, because those two skill sets come from disciplines that are very, very deep. And it takes a lot to get to a level of mastery of those skill sets. And so right now I'm having the experience of recording something called the Coaching Agile Teams Guided Study and Practice Group, where I'm taking a group of 250 people through the book, one small chunk at a time, like about 20 pages at a time. And then they are using what they just read or what they just listened to in the audiobook, and they have homework from me that they're doing between now and the next session. So we're creating these action learning cycles. And what I'm aware of about what the book means to me is that things I wrote 12 years ago now, I'm coming to understand in a deeper way because my practice has advanced. And I don't even begin to say that I'm at a level of mastery of these skills, but I am more and more skillful in them over time. And so I would say that the book is still teaching me.
Wow, it's great. And I'm curious about the structure of this book, because this book is very well written. How did you design the structure of this book?
Well, the subtitle of this book, it says it's a companion. And a companion is someone who is there for you all the time. My dog is one of my best companions. When I'm working, he's right at my feet, And so I wanted to have the feeling of that this book could be your companion. So I didn't want to make it, I wanted to make it really accessible for what you needed in the moment. So that's why every chapter is completely self-contained. You don't need to read the whole book from beginning to end. You can just flip through the index or the table of contents and go, oh, product owners, that's what I need to understand. Like, how do I coach my product owner? Okay, now let me go read those 10 pages about product owners. So that was important to me, is that the book serve people over a long period of time, just like a really good companion does.
Exactly. I was just I had this one-on-one coming up with my team, and I was just flipped through the chapter and then found a one-on-one coaching session right away and tried to read that part. So I understand what you're saying. So similar question to this is, you have two major parts. You divide the book into two major parts, and the second part of the book says helping the team get more for themselves. You gave the coach different hats, such as coach, mentor, facilitator, teacher, problem solver, conflict navigator, and collaboration conductor. So 10 years later, Do you still think the Agile coaches wear these hats, or do you find any additional hats they wear in coaching Agile teams?
I think whatever additional hats we have thought about in the last 10 years could be categorized into those simpler categories. And of course, the state of the art of Agile coaching has advanced in these last 10 years. And one of the things that happened early on in Agile Coaching Institute was that my partner, Michael Spade, who is a model maker, I'm not a model maker. It's clear I'm not from the book, you know, because I did not make a model in that book. I have like, hey, here are a bunch of categories, here are a bunch of hats. But Michael was able to codify that into what's called the Agile Coaching Competency Framework. And we were very intentional to make that a Creative Commons work because we wanted people to take that and based on what they were learning, adapt it, you know, advance it, make it better. I mean, that's the whole thing we want to do is learn from empirical evidence what works instead of from theory. And so people have done that over time. And I would point everyone to the latest work that I've become aware of that I think is the most complete here. It's called the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. And several people, you know, about 15 or 20 people over the last 3 years have taken the Agile Coaching competency and created something much more complete. And they have also created very clear maturity guidelines for how you know if you're a beginner at something, how you know if you're more advanced, how you know if you could be a teacher of it. And so I'm really, I'm heartened by their work and I'm really grateful that people continue to learn and take it forward.
And before we move on with more questions, we also want to give you some time because it sounds like you have some questions about our book as well.
Yeah, you know what? I read on the Scrum Alliance website how you all have translated some other books and that you were using that same way to translate Coaching Agile Teams. And I was just astounded that such a large group of people could translate a book and have it come out as, you know, enough of one voice that the not only the details of the content, but that the heart of it comes through. And so I wanted to ask you all, you know, just in case people don't know, to give an overview of how you've done it and then what you've learned from doing it.
Wow, I will answer this question. I have prepared a PowerPoint to explain it.
Great.
That's how serious he takes your question for.
I love it.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm the PO, product owner of this book. We use the Agile Scrum framework to guide the team to complete the localization project of translating this book. And this is unique that the team members work together remotely on a pro bono basis. That means we are all volunteers. No one get any money. So before the project started, the most important is vision. You can see the vision is we want to create the highest quality book translated in Taiwan Agile community. And this vision is completed by a team of work from home Scrum Masters or project managers. And we want to reach the top quality translation. And the result, despite the book that is translated by 50 volunteers, the output was in a consistent style and it reads as if it came from one person. Why is that? Because we stay true to the 3 pillars of the Scrum: the transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Transparency, work from home. We use Miro software to enable team members to stay aligned with it. I could show my disassembled product backlog easily, and everyone could edit the sprint backlog online, which allow everyone to see progress and bottleneck at a glance. Inspection, we held a virtual sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review to Zoom, and make sure everyone was on track. Since the team was made up of volunteers, I asked our Scrum Master to educate and train every volunteer before the product translation started. I also shared the common vision to them to reinforce their belief and motivation. We drew up a working agreement together. One requirement of which read, no matter how busy we are, we agree to attend at least 60% of meetings each week. And the last is adaptation. The sprint mechanism retrospective allow us to identify the bottlenecks early on. And this is our organization. You can see the chart is built in the feature team. So every team can translate independently. And there is area PO. Area PO means the quality assurance team. But it represents the PO. And translating this book is not complicated, but 50 work from home collaboration is. And we use the Scrum framework to solve it. We translate this book in 3.5 months, and the quality is nearly perfect. We translate Scrum book using Scrum framework, and we lead by example. So these are the procedure of our translation process virtual team. And the last is, these are all our volunteers. We have 50 volunteers. And you can see the hand sign, it means the Scrum framework, 3355. That's my explanation.
I love it. I want to do the hand. I didn't know about this hand signal. I thought it was like from Star Trek, Live Long and Prosper, what Spock does, but 2355. I love it.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
55.
That is a great way to remember the things that hold us in place in the Scrum framework, the things that we can rely on, no matter what else is changing.
It's from my master, Vernon Steinbaker. Do you know him?
Oh, Vernon, yes, yes, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. You know, it's really amazing to me that so many people can work on something like this. I mean, this is a big book. This is not just a couple hundred pages. This is a very big book. The sentences are very long. I use lots of language. Like when my husband was the proofreader of this book, and he says, I don't think that's a real word. You know, many times he would say that, I don't think that's a real word. And sometimes I would say, I'm leaving it. So there are some words in the book that actually are not even dictionary words. So it's just amazing what you've been able to do.
Yes.
And we did have new, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. And this book has been translated by China at 2010. So do you have any question? And we have translated it at now 12 years after because some special reason. Let me share again the PowerPoint. Here's the story of this book because I have recognized the Lyssa in the remote video. I translate a lot of video for Lyssa, maybe at least 10 above. And I like this book very much. So I go to learn the coaching after I got my PhD. And this book has been translated in China at 2012. So when I asked Lyssa, do you want to translate into Chinese? You are amazing. You said your book has been translated. And I explained to you that because this book is different in two languages, because one is simplified Chinese and one is traditional Chinese. So I led a team to translate this traditional Chinese at 2022. And I'm a Scrum trainer. So to promote Scrum is my destiny and duty. And with great power comes the great responsibility. So for me, I'm like the Spider-Man, the Scrum of the Spider-Man. And with the promotion of I have been promoting Agile in Taiwan for more than 6 years. In March this year, Scrum Alliance approved our application for the 2022 hosting RSG in Taiwan, Regional Scrum Gathering. The host organization is Taiwan Agile Tribe, TAT, which is the the one that sponsored this interview today. And I am the product owner of the ISG Taipei. This event will held on November 4 to 6. We estimate that there are more than 500 people will attend this, and gathering it will be the Taiwan biggest Scrum event. We look forward to have the greatest female Agile coach in the world, just like you, Lyssa, as our keynote speaker. That's my sharing.
Well, you know, we started this time together with me talking about how powerful the Agile community is because we stay connected with each other. We love to learn from empiricism and share our learnings with each other. And that these communities all over the world are really what keeps our practice of Agile fresh and what supports us as we go into organizations that resist us. Because let's you know, talk about it very frankly. We're not just bringing in a new mechanical way to do work. We're bringing in a whole new way of thinking about work. And so that's a big shift for everyone. So I just want to acknowledge, you know, you are doing like the fact that you have the regional Scrum gathering, the fact that you gather all these people to translate these books. You and others in your community are doing the really important work of community organizing and supporting people as they help organizations and individual people use Agile well.
So even though we have you today and to talk about the book, the audience here also want to know more about your other specialty, such as all the coaching skills you have. And I noticed that on your personal website, you offer service like executive team coaching. And I believe that the book mostly focused on the team coaching or even one-on-one coaching, as I often refer to. May I ask what are some major differences between the executive team coaching versus the team coaching, since it's not, you don't have much emphasis in the book before?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I am in my own experimental phase with working with leadership teams. I've been doing it now for about 2 years. And since I'm just one person, I've only worked with about 5 or 6 different leadership teams. Now, over time, I have coached leaders one-on-one, you know, many of them over these years, because I've been continuing to do that these last 10 years or so. And as I work with leadership teams, I noticed that my hypothesis is turning out to be true, which is essentially this: that leadership teams struggle with the same things that delivery teams struggle with. And the only difference is that their decisions or their lack of decision has a much bigger impact in the organization. And so because of that, they're incredibly powerful. And when I watch a leadership team in action, you know, I notice a lot of the same things that I have been teaching team and program level coaches to pay attention to in delivery teams. I mean, specifically that I think about 5 C's, 5 core competencies. And I'll name these core competencies, but I'll tell you, the spoiler alert up front is that executive teams are not any better at these 5 core competencies than our delivery teams, right? And so the core competencies are communication, conflict, collaboration, creativity, and choice making. And so when I work with an executive team, I'm not coming in there as an Agile coach. I've decided to not have my Agile expertise lead this. Because most executive teams, quite frankly, are not interested in Agile. They're interested in what Agile can do in their organization, but that feels like a very removed thing. It feels like, to them, it feels like something that other people do in their organization, but that they don't need to do. However, as we've seen, and as I've seen over the last 12 years working with thousands and thousands of Agile coaches from every industry, every size organization, every geography in the world, is that the great bottleneck for Agile being able to flourish in an organization has moved. And that bottleneck is leadership. So when I can work with leaders to help them make the shift that they need to make to alleviate that bottleneck, to basically just create the space to allow Agile to do what it does normally, then we can make some progress. And I use tools from adult human development to do that, and I use tools from professional coaching to do that. And my experience so far is that, keep in mind, I've only worked with a handful of teams, so this is not, statistically significant at all. So don't start believing this is true in any way, but my experience is that the leadership teams I've worked with, even though I consider them to be very modern and advanced, and they absolutely have the Agile values at heart, that it's so challenging for them to look at the way they work together to improve those 5 C's, that it takes a very long time to improve their internal working. And I'm sitting in the question right now of, would it be higher impact to work with maybe just the 2 or 3 people on a given leadership team that are really ready to accelerate, really ready to take their leadership to that next level? And would that have as much or a greater impact than working with the whole team? So it's a question in my mind right now. It's an open place for experimentation for me.
Maybe we'll see another book later about that.
Maybe, but I have to tell you, there are all kinds of great books in the world about executive coaching already, and what I'm not doing very much is talking about Agile from a practices standpoint or framework standpoint. There are plenty of people, usually there are plenty of people in organizations that are doing that. And so I like to partner with them and have our work be consistent with each other.
Great, thank you for sharing.
So impressive for higher executive 5 C's. Let me have a reminder for the volunteer. Because they want to take a photograph for you, with you, so I need to change their name. 各位大家志工好哈，那如果待会你们要跟Lyssa 合照的话，请记得把你的名字改名为志工开头，这样我们这个工作人员才可以把你们拉进去啊，记得改哦哈。那我们10点的时候会准时跟Miss Lyssa 合照。I'm back now. Okay, hi Lyssa. I have a similar questions on life coaching, especially I'm learning the life coaching now. I'm curious about your book because your book has a lot of life coaching, and ICF life coaching is most authoritative coaching certification in the world. I observed that you have PCC, and your book is 70% about applying life coaching to Agile development. Why do you apply such coaching skills?
Well, I've learned that I needed to acquire those coaching skills because as a plan-driven project manager, which is what I was prior to coming into Agile and learning about Agile, I honestly did not have the skills for dealing with it when people are resistant to the ideas that I'm bringing in. I didn't have the skills for dealing with it when people are afraid, when they're afraid to change. I definitely didn't have the skills for working with helping people work with conflict, for example, without myself getting all involved and messing up the whole thing. So I just noticed these places where the working with the human relationship system was a missing piece in my own practice. And so there are lots of things we do as Scrum Masters and Agile coaches. We do telling, explaining, showing, guiding, teaching, all of that is totally valid. And then there comes a moment when someone is so completely in their own way that they are themselves a blocker for what's going on in the team and, also for themselves. And so, resistance, clash of personalities, conflict, not wanting to see what's ahead, and basically just change, just helping people through the change process. And so that's where the skills of professional coaching are really, really useful, because it doesn't help to teach louder when someone is up against a difficult change. We need a different skill set. So that's why that was so important to me in my own practice. And then I just wrote about it for other people.
Great.
But I'm curious because most of the Scrum Master does not know how to coach. The CSM does not require the coaching skill.
Right.
And the highest CTC, there is only, it is coach skill is equal to the ACC. So most of the Scrum Master does know how to coach. So what's the difference with the one that know the coach and the one that don't know the coach?
Well, I hold the belief that Scrum Masters do not have to become professional coaches to be a lot more effective with their teams. I hold the belief that some few basic and fundamental coaching skills will help a lot. Because basically what we're doing in this modern era is that we are learning how to not fall in love with our own opinions and thoughts so much. Because in most cases, there is not one right way to do something. There is not one clear answer, right? And so if we can help ourselves get separated from our own wishes, desires, thoughts, concerns, and instead have the self-management to ask the question, what do people over here need? How can I help them through the change? Then I think that will help a lot. I mean, so I'm not trying to say that everyone needs to go through, these professional coaching schools are expensive, right? Really expensive. And to achieve a level of certification like the professional coach certification is a lot of work. It's 500 hours of documenting that you coached people using just professional coaching skills. So very few Scrum Masters or Agile coaches will use just professional coaching skills. I often say that it's a spice. It's a spice that we put on our food. It's not the main course. It's not even a side dish. It's a spice. And if we can just spice what we're doing a little bit with this idea of serving others, this idea of listening, being willing to enter their reality by asking them questions that help them create some insight, then what we can do is not only transfer Agile as a thing to do, but transfer Agile as a way of thinking about what to do. So I hope that's a helpful thing, but I also don't want to discourage people from getting professional coach certifications, because we need more people with the depth to hold the really, really dicey places, the places where people are really stuck, the places where people are really resistant. So we need practitioners at that depth too.
It's great. I think you let people know that coaching is definitely very helpful, but it's not the only way to do it. So that makes lots of Scrum Masters like me who cannot afford the coaching and have some hope. Yeah. And I will have one more question before we open the floor to the audience. They also have some questions they are eager to ask you about. And this one is kind of related to my personal belief. I love promoting diversity in a workplace. So I was kind of wondering, interesting to know, like, were you aware of any different coaching styles between female and male coaches? And how can female coaches be empowered during the coaching career?
That's a really good question. And I'm just sort of going back through, my experience and asking myself the question, have I noticed a difference between female and male coaches? Well, I noticed this. I noticed that the world needs more feminine essence energies in it. And when I say the world, I mean the world in our organizations. And so these feminine essence energies are things like inclusion, collaboration, holistic thinking, depth, harmony, subtlety. Basically, if you go like this with your hand, these feminine essence energies allow us to really sense what's happening in our world and with the specific topic that we have in front of us, and help us go to enough depth to know what is the action that will serve the most. And the masculine essence energies are all about that action: direction, freedom, clarity, assertiveness. And so we have had an overabundance of the masculine, the yang energies in our modern work world for at least the last 50 years, maybe the last 100 years. And what's happened that I can see is that the world's gotten more complex, and it's not so clear exactly what direction we need to go to at any given moment. And so we need these feminine essence energies to come in more. And so that's why I see that Agile is simply participating in what's trying to happen as we start to work in an era of true complexity. Because guess what we value in Agile? We value transparency, we value collaboration, we value inclusion. And so I don't know that it's so much that people who identify as female or people who identify as male are better or worse at this whole Agile coaching thing. I think that the more that we all can occupy all of those energies and use the one that's necessary at the time, then we'll be able to serve the true complexity that's in front of us.
That's very interesting concept. The harmony. It kind of remind me, the Chinese talk about this yin and yang, and it's like the harmony thing as well. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so now we're open questions. We're open to the audience. I saw there's a hand raising. Was it Sunny Chan? Would you like to turn on the microphone and just give your question?
Hi, Lyssa.
Hi, Sunny.
Thank you for giving a wonderful speech. I definitely learned a lot from your sharing experience of project management, especially the part you mentioned, not falling into our own perspective, but be open-minded to learn other people's perspective. I think it can apply not only in project management, but many aspects in our lives. But given the fact that this book is so wonderful and practical and so thorough and complete, if you have the opportunity to go back to edit or add some input, what would you like to change or add in the book?
That is a really great question. And that is a question I struggled with when I had the idea of recording the audiobook. Because at that time, I had the opportunity to write a second edition and then record the audiobook on the second edition. And that would make more sense, right? I mean, it's been 10 years, certainly things have changed. And so what I did was I went back and I read the book myself, like with fresh eyes. And the experience I had was like, we're still working on that one. Oh, we're still working on that one. We're still working on this one. So like the world is still working on the material that's in the Coaching Agile Teams book. So I decided to record the audiobook based on the original edition. But I mean, you're exactly right. There are things that I would change. There are things that I'm slightly embarrassed about actually, but they're not important enough to change. They're not important enough to do a whole new edition. And the state of art of Agile coaching has definitely advanced. So what I decided to do, instead of creating a second edition of the Coaching Agile Teams book, is that I decided to record a podcast series of all of those things that I would add and all of the different people's work that I would point to. Because I also realized that if I created a second edition, it would really just be pulling other people's work together, in one place. And that didn't feel right to me, because people have genuinely advanced the state of the art of Agile coaching, and I wanted them to be the original sources. So if you go to the womeninagile.org website, you can access this 13 episode podcast. We have an episode on the new models that I've become aware of, to help see problems more clearly. We have an episode on how to coach the team as an entity. We have episodes on all kinds of things where I get to point to the good work that other people have done and then talk about the things that I would have changed if I decided to write another one, but I didn't think it was worth it.
Thank you so much. You just answered one of my other questions regarding podkicker. Is that podkicker or podcast?
Yes.
So if I
Podcast.
went there and then if I go there to type and search Lyssa, your name, and I would be able to find it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
bet you someone will find the link as we're talking and put it in the chat. I will bet you that will happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Sunny. Thanks for asking the question.
And we have more questions coming up. So,
Question, hello. Because there's a lot of coach community that joins today's interview, and they have a question I asked for them. They asked that if someone that they have ICF, ACC, or PCC coach certification, and they are interested in entering the Agile world, but they have no previous Agile experience, how would you recommend them to become an Agile coach or SM, Scrum Master?
Well, I think it depends on how much they are already aligned with the Agile values and the mental models, the belief system that Agile comes from, because it's a completely different belief system than anything we've seen in business to this point. So a way to test that is to do one of two things. One, go ahead and take a job as a Scrum Master of a team. Mm-hmm. Like professional coaches may feel that's sort of like a demotion. Maybe it's not as prestigious as what they're doing. They certainly won't get paid as much for it. But what my experience was when I was the Scrum Master of a team is that I could understand Agile cognitively, like from my own logical intelligence. But that was only like 10% of the power of Agile. The power of Agile is the mindset and the belief system that it comes from. And it took me, and I think it will take other people, practical experience, like actually being a practitioner of Agile to be able to coach Agile teams well. And so that's one possibility. The other possibility is to use something called the personal agility system. It's something that Maria Mattarelli and Peter Stevens in our worldwide community created a few years ago. And I think it's one of the few ways that managers and leaders in organizations will get to experience Agile, because it's a 4-week online guided experience where you apply Agile to your whole work and life. And I got to tell you, I've been doing it myself for the last 3 years. I think I'm at, I don't know, it's like 100, it's week 175 that I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And I gotta tell you, I mean, even though I was an Agilist for, a dozen years before I started using personal agility system, I learned so much about Agile. I learned the feeling of what it is when I take on too much work in progress and how hard that is for me and how much I beat myself up when I can't do as much as I planned to do. And then when I inspect, I just see, look, I was just being unrealistic about how much I could do. I have never been able to do as much as I actually brought into that last sprint. And sprints for me are week to week. They're on Saturday to Saturday. So the personal agility system, I think, is one of the few ways that people who've never been on an Agile team will get to experience that shift that Agile creates for us.
Thank you for a recommendation. Irene?
I saw more hands in the audience. So I don't know who raised their hand first. So sorry, I'm going by the order on my screen. So Chen Wei Ting, would you like to share your question directly? You can just turn on your microphone.
Yes, thank you, Lyssa, for sharing today. I would like to know, in your experience, okay. So I would like to know that in your experience, is there any tips for the people who want to implement Scrum in a big organization? Because in my own experience, it's much tougher, because in a big organization, it's hard to empower just a small enough team for all the decisions. Like in my organization, we're trying to implement Scrum, but in a halfway, like half Scrum, half waterfall way, since there's so many managers that we need to report to. So we can't ask all the managers to join the Scrum team, etc. So
Yeah.
I should
I just want to appreciate how difficult your situation is. I mean, it's genuinely difficult. Scrum does not exist as just a different way to work. Scrum exists because it enables the business to do something it couldn't do otherwise. And so if you are in a situation where there is literally no compelling reason why the organization is using Scrum, it's just like a cool new way to do things, you're gonna continue to have problems. And so one of the things I would point you to is start to look at all the ways that the organization is not designed to get what it wants. Then those are organizational impediments. And if you start to work with other people who are trying Scrum in other parts of the organization, maybe start to elevate what you're seeing to as many leaders as will listen, middle managers who will listen, and keep the focus on what is the business outcome we're going for that Scrum can help us with. If Scrum is simply just a different way to do work, no one is going to make that shift. No one. I mean, why would they? Why would they? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a significant change in the way we work and the way we think about work. And so it has to be guided by why. Why do we want to work this way? What difference will it make for this business that people will care about?
Okay.
So I just want to acknowledge it's a really, really tough thing that I'm suggesting for you to do,
I'll try.
But people are powerful together. I mean, that's one thing that Scrum has shown us is that if you get Scrum working even half well, it's maybe not going to be up to your standards, maybe not going to be as great as you want, but if you get it working here and you get it working here just a little bit, then it really can create a movement from inside the organization, because it is what people want, but they just don't know they want it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just, I wish you much perseverance and know that I'm supporting you from over here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And another question from the floor is the Jinzhou 教练. Would you like to share your question directly?
等一下，我帮金珠姐加点。好。
谢谢 Lyssa 分享很多经验给我们。我简单叙述一下我的问题。第一个呢，我是一个 ICF 的 PCC 教练已经在教练这个领域大概做了20年。那今年呢，才开始进入敏捷的领域那也考过 CSM 的证照。那我也找了一些人来做 coach， 就发现我发现大部分的人有遇到这个同样的困难，就是说，第一个，公司里面不是每一个人都知道敏捷的概念，都是少部分人去学，然后带进去那所以他们在推动的时候会需要很多的教育的困难。但是对推动的人，他们遇到一个非常困难的问题，就是他们大部分都是从 PM 来。那 PM 在他们工作已经好几年了，所以他们养成一种就是遇到问题马上找 solution， 然后丢给团队，然后去解决，那是最快的。可是遇到他要当 Scrum Master 的时候，他发觉有时候他希望能够做到书本上您所写的让自己团队相信他们，然后让他们去做。可是对于时效或者对这个绩效的部分来临的时候，当上面的人要去考核他的绩效的时候，很多人会遇到说，我不晓得到底要怎么找到那个平衡点，是可以让我可以维持平衡。我相信书本上所写，我也希望去做，但是我也尽量不要去用以往的经验那这个部分，请问一下 Lyssa， 你怎么去给建议呢？谢谢。
So Ms. Jinzhou, she is a very senior coach in Taiwan, and she's also a member of ICM. And she actually recently just received her CSM. And the question now is, now she's trying to promote all this agile coaching in the company, and then realize, and it's actually normal in Taiwan, that many of the corporation, they would just send a few people to receive the agile training. So they, and those people are mostly from the traditional PM background, like you and myself. We're all from that background. And then the hard part is now they really want to believe this agile coaching. They want to believe what Scrum and Agile can bring to people, but they are struggle to when it comes to the time, the annual performance time. I don't know, the semi-year performance time. It's hard to show. They want to show like how good they are, like how outstanding, what kind of performance they have achieved. They don't know how to strike that balance. It's just how to like it really the agile way and then still show they are improving. So if you have any concept to share, ideas.
Yeah, thank you, Irene. And I also listened to the translation when you were talking earlier, and giving me the whole background of what you're up to. This is really the question of our time, is whether or not we're going to stop lying to each other. By lying, I mean covering things over, making them look better than they are, saying we can do things when we know we can't. One of the biggest things about Agile is because of the way that the sprint structure works. We're working in short time boxes and creating a lot of transparency about what gets in our way, but also a lot of transparency about where we are magnificent and where we can do things no one ever thought we could do. And so as a PCC and as someone who's been practicing coaching for so long, maybe one of the places to look is where can you support people in fully moving into the Scrum values, specifically the values of openness and courage. Because there's a lot of things they need to say to people in organizations that they're probably very afraid to say. And if an organization can work with its people hiding the truth, then it's probably going to continue working that way. But I don't think organizations can work that way for much longer. I think we're in an era where the situations we're in are genuinely complex, where there's not a straightforward right answer for most things, and that it really does take us coming together and looking at things very plainly and being willing to look at things that aren't that comfortable. But then when we can really look at what's going on, we can then decide a better way forward together. And so for those of you, and thank you for asking this question, for those of you, like this person who have this background, please do support people in transparency, in inspection, and adaptation.
Sure.
Please do support them in those 3 pillars. And it's going to mean that you have to help them become brave.
Yeah, true.
Okay. Thank you very much for this interview. And we will have the nice termination. We will have a group photo with Miss Lyssa Adkins. And please open your webcam and we have a group photograph. Miss Lyssa, you can see at the right corner and you can see everybody. Click it to the so many icons so you can see everybody. Okay. 好，我们来大合照哈。来，请大家开镜头。
It's so amazing to see you all.
Wow, there are 402 persons online. I think it's a peak. OK， 好，我们跟这个世界最有影响力的敏捷大师合照。请大家开镜头啊，你可以比出你任何喜欢的手势你任何喜欢的手势来3、2，大家看镜头 3、2、1。Okay, there are 5 shots. No, there are 8 shots. Please wait a minute. I put the picture on the Taiwan tribe, Taiwan Agile tribe. And the second one, next 50. 1, 2, 3. Wow, everyone opens the webcam.
It's so amazing to see you holding up this book. What a great triumph for you.
3、2、1。And the fourth, number 4. 1, 2, 3. Number 5.
In the meantime, I'm just paging through all of your faces and appreciating you for the work you're doing in the world. We are truly ushering in a whole new way of thinking about work. And it takes all of us together.
好，那各位观众，我们今天就到这边为止哈。那除了是 SM 志工可以持续留下来，那大群我留那个丽秀当联席主持人跟大家打招呼。好，那个 Irene 你邀请那个进来进。
And so Ms. Atkins, can we also have you to go into the breakout room for another photo with the volunteer who helped this out this initiative, if you don't mind?
No problem.
OK， 好，
那我把大家拉进来。
好，那大群大家理解喽。有问题可以找丽秀。那如果丽秀如果那个没有被拉进去的话，志工没有拉进，跟丽秀讲一下。
好，谢谢大家，谢谢的参与。那接下来的时间就是志工的拍照。
As I see you all holding up the fruits of your labor, all the hard work you did.
Hi, Lyssa. These are all volunteers, and we are 50 in all. We are very
30。
所有志工可以开镜头吗？那个美术摄影。Okay, please open your webcam. Then we will hold your book, and we take a group picture with Lyssa. Okay, 好，来大家看一下哈。来，我试拍一张，那我放我们群主 Huber。OK， 好，3、2、1。好，等一下我拍一下，放一下我们群。我让 Lyssa 先讲几句话给大家哈。Hi Lyssa, because we are waiting some volunteers, 3 volunteers. So can you say something to us? You want to encourage us?
I do want to encourage you. Here's what I will say. We are in a change that is going to take a very long time to make. And so when you feel disappointed or discouraged, just remember that we are making progress. Just remember that Agile is here to help us work with complexity, and the world is not going to get simpler anytime soon. So we have lots of opportunities to help people use Agile to work with change in a really positive way. And so if you get disappointed, turn to one another. Turn to one another and encourage one another, support one another, because we're up to a very, very important change in the world.
Thank you for the inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay. So we take the second screenshot. Okay. 我再重拍一张哈。
Take more photos with you.
好 ，OK, please hold your book. 好，完，那个志工也跟我一起拍一下啊，这个大家全员到齐，3、2、1，好，然后把它放群里面，好，贴在
OK, great.
好，大家有没有什么话跟那个 Lyssa 说的？没有哈，那我们就
now you know our Taiwanese culture. We take lots of photos because we want to memorize every moment.
Beautiful.
Also,
Thank you, every single one of you. Thank you for helping people in your area of the world have access to this content and to have access to you, people who can help them.
and thank you so much again for your showing up in our meeting and give all the guidance, all the experience, all the inspiration. It's just really, really a pleasure and an honor that everybody can join you today. And thank you again for spending your time with us. It's really a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Okay. So Ms. Lyssa, we will finish our activity. Thank you very much. And see you.
Hope to keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lyssa.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Thanks, Roger and Irene. Did a beautiful job.
好啦，大家那个要圆一个梦想啊！我们已经跟3个大师合照了。好，那我们等着下一本圣经 ，Ritual 圣经我们完成时啊。好，那今天辛苦大家了，总算值得了啊。好，那我们散会喽。